Stop thinking tariffs work the way politicians promise. Seriously. If you believed that a 25% fee on Nvidia chips to China would force Beijing to buy American, you just witnessed a $30 billion backfire. Here is the counterintuitive truth that Washington is learning. China said no to Nvidia's H200 chips. Not because they couldn't afford them, but because they decided to build their own. Although the US Commerce Department approved about 10 Chinese firms, including Alibaba and Tencent, to buy H200s, Beijing approved 0 purchases. Jensen Huang, Nvidia's CEO, flew to Beijing at the last moment, but no deals were made. Trump admitted they chose not to buy because they want to develop their own capabilities. KeyBanc estimates that this refusal correlates to a Chinese demand of approximately 1.5 million units annually, leading to a staggering $30 billion in lost revenue for Nvidia. Their market share in China's data center went from 95% to 0. Let me break down how this happened and stick around for the 3 secrets that will transform how you view every trade war headline. I'll admit something. When I first heard about Trump's 25% fee on Nvidia chips to China, I thought, smart. Protect American technology. Make China pay. I was wrong. The policy didn't generate revenue or protect American technology, it accelerated China's domestic chip industry. Today, I'm going to show you how this backfired. We'll look at the $30 billion loss, the failed Beijing trip, China's strategic pivot toward Huawei, the optimization of DeepSeek for domestic chips, and Huang's own confession that they've largely conceded the market to Huawei. By the end, you'll understand why Nvidia now projects 0 revenue from China. Let's start with the Trump administration's actions, a 25% fee on Nvidia H200 chips sold to China and a routing requirement mandating that chips must pass through US territory before reaching China. Why this rule? Direct export fees are restricted under certain trade agreements, so the administration created a workaround. Chips went US to another country and then to China, with the US profiting from this process. The Commerce Department subsequently sanctioned approximately 10 Chinese firms to buy H200s, with each able to purchase up to 75,000 chips. However, the actual result was that Beijing approved 0 purchases. The policy was supposed to stimulate US revenue and restrict China's access but achieved neither, merely accelerating China's ambition to produce their own chips. Next, let's discuss Jensen's last-minute trip to Beijing. He met personally with Chinese officials to salvage something, anything. The outcome? No deal. China refused to approve any H200 purchases. Jensen's inability to close a deal wasn't due to price or quality. It reflected a strategic decision from China. They would develop their own chips. Such a choice is beyond any negotiation. Now, let's explore the scale of the financial blowback. Analysts at KeyBanc estimate that Chinese demand for AI chips stood at about 1.5 million units yearly, translating to around $30 billion in annual revenue for Nvidia. Before the restrictions, Nvidia commanded 95% of the data center chip market in China. Now, they have essentially 0 share. Jensen openly acknowledged, "We have largely conceded the market to Huawei." Nvidia's strategic guidance now reflects a sober reality. They project 0 revenue from China. $30 billion isn't just a statistic. It means real revenue, real profits, and real growth are now lost to Huawei and other Chinese manufacturers. Let's delve into why China said no. First, Huawei's Ascend chips are now sufficiently developed, making them viable alternatives. While not as refined as Nvidia's, they're close enough for numerous applications. Second, DeepSeek has optimized its large language model for Huawei Ascend chips, eliminating the need for Nvidia's technology. Third, ByteDance is investing $30 billion into local AI infrastructure, favoring domestic chipmakers over Nvidia. Lastly, the routing requirement posed perceived security risks. Beijing is wary of potential tampering during transit through US territory. Consequently, US policy inadvertently created an environment ripe for China to rapidly develop domestic alternatives, spurred by high prices and supply uncertainties. Let me finish with 3 critical insights that connect our discussion. Secret number 1 involves the tariff backfire reality. Tariffs sound appealing in theory, but they can accelerate domestic competition if the other country has the capability to produce for themselves. China was already working on AI chips. US tariffs turned that task into a national mission. The second secret involves the routing requirement mistake. Forcing chips through US territory posed a security dilemma. Trust is essential in global trade, and once it's undermined, restoring it is incredibly challenging. Lastly, the third secret is the zero revenue guidance from Nvidia, which confirms their long-term abandonment of China. This isn't a temporary setback, it represents a structural loss of the Chinese market. Now, what should you do with this information? If you are an Nvidia investor, note the $30 billion loss is significant, yet Nvidia continues to thrive elsewhere, reporting $81.5 billion in Q1 revenue, an 85% year-over-year increase. For China tech investors, the trends surrounding Huawei Ascend, DeepSeek, and ByteDance reflect a structural shift in AI infrastructure towards local chips. Finally, for policymakers, tariffs without domestic alternatives simply don't work. The US must invest in domestic chip manufacturing rather than merely taxing Chinese purchases. To truly hinder China's AI ambitions, US chips need to be superior and more affordable than Chinese alternatives. Tariffs alone cannot accomplish this. What do you think about Trump's 25% chip fee? Was it strategic or did it hand China's AI market to Huawei? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more insightful analysis on the US-China tech war.